We were looking at how do we rename variables in Stata. We looked at how do we rename a single variable, how do we rename multiple variables, how we can change variable names to upper, lower, or proper keys by using those options. Now we want to look how can we remove and add prefixes or suffixes to variable names, and we will do this with the help of wildcards. Now, what are wildcards? It's this asterisk sign which basically helps you to call multiple variables without having to list down all the variables. How does that work? If I write a var and then I put an asterisk after it, right? This is the wildcard. This will refer to all variables in my data set that start with var, and they could have anything in place of the asterisk. If I write a static var, this will refer to all variables in the data set ending with this var, and instead of the static, they could start with anything. And if I just put in a static, this will help me to refer to all variables in the data set. So we'll use wildcards in helping us remove and add prefixes and suffixes to variable names. Let's first look at how do we add prefixes and suffixes to variable names. Let's first look at how do we add prefix. So a prefix comes before a word, right? So pre means that it comes before the word, right? So here pre would tell you it's going to come before the word. Let's say pk is the prefix that I want to add to all my variable names in my data set, right? So I want to add this prefix pk. So I want pk to come before all my variable names in my data set. So if I have a variable name make, I want it to be pk make. If I have a variable name repair, so I want it to be pk repair. So that's what we want to do. So for this, what we'll do is we'll write rename and we'll put the static over here, which remember refers to all variables in my data set because you wanted to add it to all variable names, right? So the static will refer to all variables in the data set. And then what I'll do is I will write pk static, right? Basically, I wanted to convert all variable names to pk, to put pk before all variable names in my data set. That's what you want to do. So this is the command we'll run. Now, what if we wanted to add the prefix pk underscore for the variables that start with real in the variable names, right? So I only want to apply to those variables which start with real this prefix. So what I'll do is I'll do rename, then I'll do real aesthetic, right? So real aesthetic is only referring to those variables in the data set that start with real, right? We said that this refers to all those variables in the data set that start with var. So similarly, this refers to all the variables in the data set. So we're basically using this fact, right? Okay. This refers to all variables in the data set. Now, in this case, starting with real. So this is saying can rename all those variables starting with real to, and now just put a pk underscore before them. That's what this is telling it to do, right? So then this adds this prefix. Obviously, if I just want to add pk, we could just add pk2, pk real underscore, but here we want pk underscore real, right? But here we wanted to add the prefix pk underscore, right? So now, how do we add suffixes? Now, suffix comes after the word. So if say I have make, so I want to write it as if I want to add the suffix pk, so I'll make it make pk. If it's repair, then I want to write it as repair pk, right? So suffixes come after the word, prefixes come before the word. Now, so what we do is say I want to add the suffix pk to all the variables in my data set. Again, we'll do rename. We'll write aesthetic here because aesthetic refers to all variables in a data set. And then I will just say, okay, just attach the suffix at the end of it, pk. Right? So then this becomes, if it was make, it will become make pk. If it is repair, it will become repair pk. So what if now I want to add the suffix underscore pk for the variables ending with real? So then I'm going to say rename. So now I only want to refer to those variables that end with real, which are underscore real. And then I'm just saying put a suffix underscore pk at the end of it. Right? So this is how you can add suffixes and prefixes. Now, how do you remove them? So say I want to remove, let's first look at how to remove prefix from variables. Remember prefix pre means it comes at the beginning, right? Before the word. Let's say pk is a prefix, right? If it's a prefix, this means that all that you have variables, it's a prefix on some variables. So they'll be in the form pkv1, pkv2, pkv3. So if I want to remove this prefix, what I'm doing is I'm going to write rename pk aesthetic. So I'm pk aesthetic is referring to all those variables that start with pk, and I'm saying just remove the pk from them, right? And if I want to remove suffix from variable name, so let's say real is a suffix, right? So you have variables in the form and suffix comes at the end, right? So it's v1 real, v2 real, v3 real. We want to remove it. So for this, what we're doing is we are saying rename aesthetic real. So this is referring to all the variables in the data set that end with real, and then we're saying just remove the real from it, right? So using wildcards, we can remove and add prefixes and suffixes to variable names, right? So knowing how these wildcards work would be helpful in seeing how we can do this.